call to order the February 12th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Darrell, aye.
Jeff here.
Lynn here.
Amanda here.
Michael here.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can y'all make sure y'all mics on?
Okay. Opportunity for approval of the regular agenda. Does anybody have anything here? No? May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the agenda from February 12th, 2025.
May I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Amanda, second by Darrell. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, hello. What a sweetheart. Approval of the minutes of January 22nd. Anybody have any corrections, changes, additions? I have one little comment to make, and I hope Amanda doesn't mind. But in mine, it said that I said about open space and about parking. Amanda actually started with the open space, so I just wanted to let you know that I knew that.
Thank you.
She's the one who brought it up, and I just followed her comment. Okay, and with that, may I have a motion to accept the minutes of January 22nd?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of January 22nd.
May I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody?
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
No, I wasn't here either.
You can
I can still vote on it?
No, you,
I wouldn't know what was going on. Okay.
Accepting them from the
you
last.
read the agenda though, right?
I
Did you
read
see
the
anything
agenda.
you
I
didn't
read
like?
it. Okay. Never mind.
Okay, no conflicts of interest? Anybody? No? Public comment? Does anybody in the audience have a public comment on something that is not on tonight's agenda? Thank you. With that, we'll close public comment. Special presentations, we have none. Design review and land use public hearings, 532 Main Street, new single-family residence. Is it you or no? Me. You? Okay.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to note that we have a special guest in the audience tonight. Katie Sickles, our interim town manager, is here.
Thank you.
Apparently she's bored and wants to see what's going on.
Clearly.
Hey, for
She wants
She-
to be prepared.
She is thorough and attentive to our town's goings on, so welcome.
Hi, Katie. We've met before. Okay. Go for it.
Okay, so this is a final plan review of a new 4-bedroom, 6,597 gross square foot single-family residence located at 532 Main Street in the Old Town Residential Zone. This is a 2 to 3 story as it does step down the lot. And with the maximum building height measured to the midpoint of the roof at 27 feet 9 inches, which is under the maximum allowable 28-foot limit. The plans show a ground level with the garage, primary living area, and master bedroom. The upper level has a game room, which could double as a bedroom, and the lower level has the 3 remaining bedrooms and a craft studio. Parking is adequate even with the potential extra bedroom with 4 extra off-street spaces, 2 of which are in the garage and 2 in front of the garage. There are no variances required or requested. The back deck, a couple items of note is that the back deck is cantilevered over an existing sewer easement. The applicant has indicated that they have initiated the encroachment agreement process with Eagle River Water and Sanitation District, and that's why that's included as a recommended approval of condition of approval. And then also of note, as you'll see before you, there was a question posed by Commissioner Boyd about the amended final plat process. This lot is going through an amended final plat, and the only reason that was not flagged as an issue within the staff report is that they are on the tail end of that process. They've received their approval from staff. They now just need to get their signatures and then record that with the county. However, that can certainly be made an additional condition of approval just to ensure that that happens. I would like to have Scott weigh in on his discussion with the town attorney, Mike Sawyer, concerning the processing of amended final plats in conjunction or subsequent to DRB applications. So that is my brief presentation.
It's your spiel.
It's my spiel.
Scott?
Sure. Thanks, Madison. So I think what Madison was referring to is something we've seen before, where we have, in this case, a lot that is a conforming lot, but it also has a contiguous parcel, a quiet title parcel. What we've been doing with those is requiring an amended final plat to combine those two legal parcels, or they're both legal. One is conforming, one is non-conforming. So combining those, we've done that quite often with our DRB reviews for new homes, and we've conditioned any DRB approval for the new home based on the applicant completing the minor subdivision or amended final plat process. So before they can apply for a building permit, they have to actually have finalized the plat and recorded at Eagle County. So they've got a new parcel, right? And the question was raised, and certainly Michael, I won't speak for you, but apparently maybe there was a different interpretation in the past by a different town attorney. In my experience, not only have we been doing this at staff for the last 7 years that I've been working, almost 8 years working here, it's certainly done in other jurisdictions. I did speak with our town attorney, Mike Sawyer, this afternoon. We reviewed the code together. He is perfectly comfortable with the way we've been doing it, and with this particular application, that there is no liability or risk for the town in conditioning approval of a new building on a lot that is ultimately relying on the completion of a minor subdivision, particularly when that subdivision has been reviewed and approved at a staff level, because it's an administratively approved plat, and the only thing left to do is receive the final Mylar with signatures and then record the plat. So.
I have a question. So can you remind, like, everyone on our, on the commission, the difference between a quitclaim and a quiet title, in which is actually recorded at the county level, because one is not recorded.
The quiet title
used
is.
to be accepted at the town of Minturn.
Oh.
Having been through the process, which took 2 years at the county. The other one is, there's only one that's accepted at the county. So can you remind us all, just to make sure?
Sounds like you just did. Quiet title is legal. Quitclaim is not, right? Is that in a nutshell?
Yeah, and this, we're requiring him to do the quiet title.
They've already quiet titled the property. We're requiring them to combine two legal parcels.
And the county has acknowledged it in full?
It's quiet titled, it's a done deal, right? So that's not in question. When we receive plats, we require title work that has all of that information. We have people like Jeff Spinell and his firm that review the survey and the easements and the title work. We have Richard and Mike who review the title work and the legal descriptions. So by the time it gets in front of you in this kind of situation where we're reviewing a new house that, again, relies on the completion of the minor subdivision, we are 95% or 98% confident that that's going to get done. And the only risk is on the applicant. It's their burden to complete the subdivision process, or else they don't get a building permit, and they would have wasted quite a bit of time and money designing a home that they would then need to redesign. So.
Can I ask that we make sure when we're doing chapter 16, we have those two definitions in it?
Sure.
Thanks.
Can I say something for a minute?
Yeah. Staff.
To staff, correct. Yeah, I just wanted for everyone to know, the reason that I had asked about it is because I had, had asked it about the same question prior on another project, and in the past, in the past, especially on, river properties. The final plat was required to be done, and the final plat signed by land title, the mayor and everybody and their brother. And then there's no question as to who owns the property, in regards to that, that's how it had been done in the past. And the reason I asked the question is because I never saw that it had changed, but regardless of where we're at now, I think that it's good to, it's a good process to have if we're going to do it and make it a requirement moving forward in our new code. That way it clears up whoever, who owns what, and if Mike says that's what we're doing moving forward, then, then anybody. And the other purpose is also with someone else had asked me a question in regards to the river letter. And I think that having all that information, and having the plat and having it all signed off, it would cut down on us surveying half people's river properties, because we would already know who owns what in the future. So that's why I initially brought it up. And that being said, if it's clear that everybody has to do it prior to getting a permit,
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. And I'm terrible at emails, and I didn't have your cell number because I just thought I had a quick question and turned into not a quick question, but thank you for answering it. And I just wanted to say what brought it about for me is because when one step further back, when the river restoration project was done, the council at that time had noted that nobody was allowed to quiet title anything anymore per the restoration. So I just wanted some clarification on that. And if you just gave clarification, and if that's what we're requiring with no skin, with us assuming no liability until we have it, and otherwise you don't get your permit, and Mike's on board with that, it answers my question.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. There's some important takeaways that what we've been doing, approving things with a condition of approval that specifically says you must complete this process before you get your building permit. It's good practice, number one, puts everyone on notice that this as conditioned meets one of our findings, which is that it complies with zoning. So if in this case, and I think in most other cases, the combination of these two legal lots that are, to your point, who owns it, they're both owned by the same person. We knew that. There was no question about ownership. And there was nothing strange about the title work. Quiet title was legal. But if this quiet title parcel was not attached to the larger parcel, it's not a huge additional amount of acreage, but the applicant needs that to achieve lot coverage and impervious coverage, as we've seen in the past. So it becomes really important that we have a condition of approval that says you have to complete this before you get your building permit. And if they don't, then you're still covered, right? You've made the condition, the approval conditional. So from a legal standpoint, that's something that Mike and I talked specifically about today.
It seems like the place we normally run into it is on river lots rather than other lots.
Mhm.
So how often do those come up? It's something that's been happening right now, maybe a bit more often, but it's
Yeah.
good to clear it up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for answering my question.
Yep.
Next time we'll talk for 3 minutes and we won't have all this.
Okay, next.
Applicants and their representative are online.
Hi, Ken.
Great.
How are you?
Hey.
Are you ready to
Hey,
present? Are you
Where
ready
we
to
go?
present? Well, whoever's
No.
presenting, please introduce yourselves.
We're ready to go. My name is Tobin Smith. I'm Patty and Ken's architect.
And we certainly appreciate the time this evening to speak to you about this project. Can we, Madison, take control of the screen so that we can have some visuals up as I march through this?
Yes, you should be able to share your screen.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, Patty and Ken are here with us tonight, and some of you may know them. They're current Minturn residents. And then also have architectural team members, Ethan and Eva, with us as well. And somewhere in the Zoomscape, we've got Michael Pukas, who's our local consulting architect, and Burke Harrington, our local general contractor, two critical team members. I've spent time with Patty and Ken in Minturn in both winter and summer, studying the town's architecture, the colors of the landscape, the site, its context, and feel very connected to this special place. I particularly appreciate the descriptors in Minturn's design guidelines that capture its spirit. This town, rich in history, an authentic and eclectic place. Its architectural fabric, quote, a pattern quilt. I love that. This is just the type of place where my team and I want to contribute appropriate and meaningful architecture, and we've dedicated ourselves to that aim for the past months. So let me begin by speaking broadly about the design. Minturn design standards and guidelines states traditional buildings of Minturn were simple boxes of 1 and 2 stories with pitched roofs. Additive features like roof dormers and awnings or bay windows and porches on residential structures added more detail. And that was just our intent with our primary 2-story gable and the secondary setback shed and the additive projecting front balcony, which you can see in upper left, bottom right images here, and then the entry porch as well, setback. Upper left is probably the best place to see that, and both visible from the public right-of-way, the street, Main Street, and the sidewalk. And then also as recommended in the guidelines and shown in the diagrams, we stepped the structure and the roof line down as grade falls towards the river. And you can see that stepped gabled roof line in these aerial views as well. The house sits on a stone plinth similar to the historic Eagle River Hotel. And the grade around the structure remains largely natural with subtle contour manipulation by the civil engineer to facilitate drainage. But as the grade drops, that stone plinth gets revealed just as it is in that photo we just showed. The 2-story scale perceived from the street is in keeping with adjacent houses, and the house is sited to follow the pattern established by those adjacent structures. It's set back more than 30 feet from the property line, which is far beyond the 10-foot front setback. And this larger buffer space accommodates both parking and plantings. A flagstone entry walkway flanked by 5 new aspen trees and native grasses connects the sidewalk and the driveway to the entry porch. That's the bottom right image here on this sheet. And that entry porch element reinforces Minturn's architectural character and neighborliness. This was an important desire of Patty and Ken's to have a wonderful arrival experience. And the flagstone walkway, the trees, and the porch are all important to that. The house is a 2-story structure on the street side, and it's a 2-story structure on the river side. That's something I wanted to really touch on and explain well. It's not a 3-story house. The only 3-story portion is that stairwell highlighted in yellow. So when perceived from the street, there's the garage and then the room above, and then that main level carries through, and there is this vaulted taller space, the great room on the back side, the river side, which on that longitudinal section on the bottom is the right-hand space up above. And then there's that more compressed lower level where we've got bedrooms and the art studio down below. But when perceived from the river, it's also a 2-story elevation. And so that's a critical part of this, that although there are 3 separate stories, none of them are stacked on each other. So it's really a 2-story house on both sides of this stairwell. Let's see, I think the critical thing to touch on again is that lower level is a hidden realm visible only from the riverside. Consideration of neighbors was an important factor in numerous design decisions. The stepped massing, the material variety along the sides of the house where we have both stone and wood, And then the 14 trees that will be preserved or added on the site are a few examples. In terms of material palette, natural materials and complementary color tones are the primary experience of this residence. The exterior palette includes vertical wood siding, and we're strongly considering a reclaimed barn wood. That's the fourth image down on the right side of the page. Dry stack stone is another primary material. This is all the way at the bottom on the right, and we're going to use a Colorado quarried material, Telluride Gold. And then standing seam metal roofing is another primary material, particularly experienced from the two neighboring properties. And so these are materials that are utilized throughout town, both on historic and contemporary structures. Oxidized steel accents, touches of warm wood tones under the eaves and the front door in particular, and then bronze window and door cladding complete the grouping of materials. The varied tones and textures will connect this home with the town's fabric and history and are appropriate within the broader landscape context. The design complies with the 10-foot front and rear setbacks and the 5-foot side yard setbacks. The structure is sited well above the 100-year floodplain and the 30-foot high water mark highlighted on the right side of this site plan. The foundation does not encroach on the 20-foot utility easement, but I'm going to circle back to that in just a minute. The design complies with the 28-foot height maximum. You can see these highlighted lines of the grade shifted upward 28 feet. It also complies with the 18-inch overhang encroachment code. And moving back to the site plan, the 18-foot max curb cut was followed. We have parking for 4 vehicles accommodated, which corresponds with bedroom count. The snow storage is accommodated on either side of the driveway and the front walkway. And then trees, we will plant 6 new trees along with 8 existing trees that will remain for a total of 14, which is far more than the minimum 9. And I know that makes our tree-loving clients across from me smile. The design complies with lot coverage and impervious area percentages, and no variances are requested as a part of the submission. So going back to the easement, Patty and Ken are pursuing an upper level deck encroachment agreement with Eagle River Water and Sanitation District. And as designed, the deck cantilevers 4 feet over the district's easement. And this is approximately 9 feet above natural grade, so there's plenty of working room beneath it. The support columns are set back from the edge of the deck and are located outside of the easement. That's a critical thing for them, we know. And final approval of the proposed deck design is, of course, contingent upon approval of the proposed encroachment. So in conclusion, our aim throughout this design process has been to capture the town spirit in an effort to add appropriate and meaningful architecture to the pattern quilt that is Minturn. Thank you all for the time.
We're open to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who has any questions they would like to ask? Or comments
yeah.
you'd like to make? Please state your name and
Yeah,
address.
my name is Alex Markells. I live at 624 Main Street. You know, Michael has done this himself with an easement over the sewer, and that caused a tremendous amount of controversy and anger from neighbors. And I just wonder why you would do something like that. Look, I respect everybody's right to do with private property what they want, but I've been outspoken to the town council and to others on the staff that we are losing the natural environment along the river, and that the 30-foot setback is being encroached upon. The swimming holes where our children used to swim are unavailable to us now because of this, push for quiet titles and quit claims. And frankly, I don't understand all of it. All I know is that there's now a no trespassing sign that my neighbor put up that doesn't allow us to go down to the river anymore. And so look, I mean, I've known this house for as long as I've been in Minturn, 45 years. It was diminutive, simple, and I don't see how a two-story structure at the level that they're talking about is in keeping with that diminutive style. If you look next door at the Keogh house, that house maintained its original forward structure, and you know, I can complain about how many square feet people are building and why they would possibly need 6,000 square feet to live in a house, but that is our society, that's part of what's going on. But if you want to look at something that is at least more in keeping with what the traditional street front looks like, look at the Keogh house, because that house is still going to be multi-level and has all kinds of windows and et cetera, but it was able to maintain the one-story original structure, and I think that is something that that is in keeping with our community-wide effort, not simply to protect the character of the place, but to look. We all know how close we are to the wild. I was late in showing up because there's a big herd of elk right above our place right now, hanging out, and as beautiful as they are, I fear for them. That herd has been really decimated over a period of decades. But again, another story. I don't want to go on here. I just want to say that I'm really, really concerned and sensitive about protection of the river, about public access to the river, and maintaining the street level character. And in my opinion, if you look next door, you see something that is more representative of what I think we look for. I mean, when we designated the two buildings at, 155 and 151, you know, we wanted to keep those old Sears kid houses. And some people would disagree with whether that's historic or not, but the compromise that was made was something that I think we as a town felt we could live with. And again, you know, 6,000 square feet, that's a lot of space to live in. And I hope they enjoy it.
Thank you for your thoughts. Is anybody on Zoom?
Let me look. No one with their hand raised.
So we will close. Anybody else in the audience? No. Yeah, no. Okay. We'll close public comment and we'll come back to the commission. Let's start with Darryl.
Yes, I had a question. Just bring it up. What is the setback from the river right now with this proposal?
Tobin, did you have an easy answer to that? Because all I have is that it's way more than 30 feet.
Setback from the river. Let's go to the foundation plan. I think that's the best. Yeah, scroll down. Right there. So go to the bottom one, Ethan, and then right there. So we're, what you can see on the right side is the property line, and then the 10-foot setback line, and then these other three parallel lines are the easement. And so Ethan, pull up a little bit so we can see the dimension. So from the property line corner to, this is looking at the bottom of the screen, we're 26'6" to that patio corner. So that's not enclosed building space, but an outdoor patio space on the riverside.
From the ordinary high water mark, it's about 40 feet,
There you
right?
go. Yep.
About 30 foot and 10 foot for
Mm-hmm.
roughly 40 feet from the high water mark, which ordinary high water mark runs right along where the water meets the ground on it.
And just going back to some of the points made a few minutes ago, part of our strategy was to hold the enclosed building back. That was really a neighbor consideration to have less obtrusive and sort of more open spaces closer to the river where neighbors could have oblique views looking upriver or downriver versus a two-story building face right there. And so, you know, at the lower level, there's a patio and then there's this deck above it. And so that really was us trying to be considerate of the flanking neighbors. And then, you know, also talking about how this house is perceived from the street, you know, I would just go back to the design standards and guidelines that talks about traditional buildings and Minturn. Certainly there were two-story structures. Traditional buildings and Minturn were simple boxes of 1 and 2 stories with pitched roofs. You know, that's exactly what we've done. And we've got this secondary single-story piece with the front porch that I think reinforces character, as I said earlier, and is a welcoming experience for neighbors who want to wander over.
Daryl, do you have anything else?
You haven't received any information from Eagle River Water and Sand yet, have you folks?
No, this is Ken Halliday speaking, but we have not. We have started the process with them, and we're aware that there's a lot of precedent in town for our request. And so we're just in that process. And the other thing on the amended final plat, the Mylar will be available on Monday. I'm actually going to be there. I couldn't be there tonight. I really apologize. I had planned to be. I'll be there Saturday, and on Monday, we'll be getting all the signatures on the amended final plat, and Randy Kipp, our surveyor, has the Mylar ready for me Monday morning.
Anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Jeff?
I'm just going to continue on that topic just for a second, just because I've gone through a few things with Eagle River Water and Sand here in town. And my experience in town is that typically they like 25-foot wide easements, not 20 foot. So I don't know if that ever has come up, but I'm just putting it on your radar in case it does.
I think that, Jeff, that's an existing easement.
It's existing.
Yep.
Okay. Well, they can't change it, or they can't try to enforce a bigger one if they want to.
I'm
Doubtful.
sure they could, but yeah.
Maybe.
They haven't changed the others that we've done this for.
No. And I think too, just some of the conversations I've had with them over the years have been sort of like they treat it like if we do have to come back through and dig up that line for some reason, it's obviously on all the costs to tear anything off the house, or landscaping or whatever would be on the owner to replace that. So I'm just probably telling you something you already know, but
Yes, sir.
I really like the design of the house. I really appreciate the 30-foot front setback a lot. I know that it didn't have to be set that far back off the road, but I think that it's a really nice touch. And I like that it's not pushed to the very inch of the rear of the property as well, or pushed right up against the 30-foot setback to Alex's earlier comments. You know, I was here when Alex, when you talked to the town council about all of that, and I completely agree with you. I'm very anti-quiet titling and protecting the riparian and all that stuff. So I appreciate that this house is not being proposed to be maxed out, let's call it, on any level. It's not maxed out on height. It's not maxed out on anything. Is it big? Yes, but Does it meet the code? Yes. So I was told this a long time ago by other planning members before I got on the board that, you know, our job up here is to review land use applications under the current code. And if we don't like the code, then we, as neighbors and citizens, should advocate to change it. And what's coming up in town with the Chapter 16 rewrite is the perfect opportunity for everybody to come out and put in their 2 cents when it comes to, you know, we're about to go into the probably one of the bigger sections of that rewrite, you know, as it relates to mass and scale and zoning and things like that. So, and design guidelines. So, I would say keep your eye on the prize of speaking out, and if things need to be changed, then now's the time to do it. But back to this application, you know, we can only review it under the code that exists. For the record, there has not been any quiet titling of any of the river, correct? The quiet titling is an adjacent property that is not in the river, correct? Right. So that's not an issue. So yeah, I really do. I really appreciate the design of the house. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's going to fit in very well. I don't think it's going to be a sore thumb by any stretch. It's beautiful, and I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Oh, no, Amanda. I'm sorry.
I am so not
I was going to the
I
floor
am
and I started
ignorant. I am
backwards.
ignorant. I'm going to echo my peer's comment that our job is to look at, you know, current code and does the house comply. I have probably maybe a little bit slightly different than Jeff is that I walk by the current house all the time and I'm in love with it. So I am sad to see it go and be replaced by this, but I don't have any comments on your building. It does comply, and that's that. And Title 6, or Code 16, make your voices heard. Yeah, now you can go to Michael.
Yeah, I like the building. I like the design. You know, when you're building, Ken, I can give you all kinds of good advice on gutters and heat tape and snow fence and anything else you might need. You know, powering the daylight, all that good stuff. Excavating, whatever you need. But no, I like it, and like Jeff said, I liked the front setback. Because, you know, it gives you plenty of parking, gives you a way to get in and out of there. And but Amanda said, yeah, that's Jeff and Becky's old house, you know. They got a pretty nice roof.
I know. Who put it in?
That's really what you're saying.
Yeah, but anyway, so that being said, yeah, I'm definitely like it, and you know, I probably have an additional condition, but we've already talked about it. But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a couple of small things on Intermountain Engineering. One is just a type error, which you know me, I have to tell you that. I don't know if he'll want to change it, but it's under B, and it doesn't read quite right. It says an amend will find a plat combining thing, the two parcels shown. So that thing doesn't belong in there.
Okay.
And then the other question I had is, could you please explain to me, because I've never seen this before, final plat of Boca's Edition was never recorded. So the plat for that was never recorded in all these years?
It's very possible. We have several instances of that in town, unfortunately. All of South Minturn was never officially platted. It's been something that we're dealing with. So yes, if they couldn't find it in their title work, then yeah, it does not surprise me.
Okay, thank you. My next thing is a question to Ken. I believe they are now doing non-reflective glass. Are you thinking of using that?
Non-reflective,
Right.
are you talking about obscured glass?
Well, no, glass that the birds aren't going to fly into.
Non-reflective. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. I don't know. Have we talked about that? We can look into that.
You have a
For the
tremendous
upper
amount
window.
of glass on the back of that building on the river with trees all around it, and you're going to deal with a lot of dead birds. So if you, not so much on the front, but some of those on the back, if you look into it, I don't know that it's what the cost is or anything, but it's just a suggestion.
Thank you very much. We will look at that. I know what you're talking about. Thank you.
And the other thing is, yes, I would like some of those pieces of wood off your fence. I decided,
Well, you definitely.
and Amanda
We're gonna
wants,
have.
Okay, we can't ask the applicant.
Negotiate.
no, he's already offered them to me.
That's
I
a
can't do
separate
that.
conversation.
It's
Holly
Ben's.
can,
Wow, you're on.
All I know is that I've gotten a lot of requests for.
negotiating.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not cost, he offered it to us.
Sure.
Okay, without that, those were, oh, and that was it for me. I think it looks great.
May I make a comment though, seriously? 2 weeks prior to demolition, we are going to open it up to have some folks in Minturn take a lot of the house. Kelly, Tim, a couple other folks.
Imagine
And, and so if there's something in particular that you've got your eye on, we went through it. You know, I'm on the historic. I couldn't find anything historic in there, but if there is something that is of interest, just let us know during that 2 week time period.
Are you taking bids on specific items?
Michael wants the roof.
No, it's all going to be.
We got friends.
Free. It's all donated because otherwise it would be demoed. So.
Oh, I
my
think that's a
attitude.
great idea.
I think that's awesome. Will you send staff that message and have them send it to us? Because we actually do have friends that live there.
Somebody should take the panels.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we're
Straight ones.
serious.
I know you're serious.
Me too.
Where?
I mean, we love this house.
Just
It's
let us
going
know
away.
when, Ken. We'll get the word passed around.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
know. I'll be sure to let you know, Lynn.
I love the house too.
And with that,
I'd like to make a motion.
Michael wants to make the motion.
You did add the second condition.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the final plans for 532 Main Street as conditioned below, with the following conditions. Number one, prior to or concurrent with building permit application submission, the applicants shall provide documentation for any required encroachment agreements with Eagle River Water and Sanitation for any improvements in the platted sewer easement, as well as the second condition that a final plat showing lot lines eliminated be completed and signed off prior to any permit being issued.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Michael, second by Daryl. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Michael, I.
Amanda, I.
Lynn, aye.
Jeff, I.
Carol, aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. See you when you get to town, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, design review board hearing for 0019 Belden Way. And can I talk about this?
Sure.
And I have asked for us to get this because I know some of you may not have been here in 2020 when this started. And PUDs, and Scott can explain this a lot, or Madison a lot better than I do, can have different size lot coverages than are always commonly used in our regular code. And I wanted you to be able to see that and read this. So that's why that you got this evening.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll open it to Madison.
So this is a 5-bedroom, 3,525 gross square foot single family residence and a 1-bedroom, 1,033 gross square foot accessory dwelling unit. located at 19 Belden Way in the Southtown Belden Place PUD zone district. The plans show a 3-story with a basement, single-family residence, much like the other residences that y'all have already reviewed for this project, and an ADU. Yes, all of them with a maximum building height measured via the weighted height calculation, which is explained in that PUD guide, of 27 feet and 2 3/8 inches, which is under the 28-foot maximum limit. Parking is adequate. The single unit the main unit has 4 off-street spaces, 2 in the garage, 2 in front, and the ADU has 2 off-street spaces, 1 in the garage and 1 in front. This proposal respects all platted setbacks and the lot and impervious coverage limitations listed in the PUD guide, as well as the town's snow storage requirements.
Okay, with that, we'll open to, oh no, I'm sorry. Would you like to present? I'm sorry, state your name and address.
Greg Masick, Tab Associates, 56 Edwards Boulevard, Edwards, Colorado. As before, this is just the next building in the line, actually all along that same street frontage that we presented in the past. And so I'm really here just to answer questions that kind of follow in the same. I can ask some additional, or answer any additional questions about the PUD if you like, or let me know.
Well, we're going to open to public comment. Is there anybody in the room? Katie, would you like to ask a question? So then we will not have anyone here. Is anybody on Zoom?
No raised hands.
Okay. And with that, we'll come to the commission. Does anybody here have any questions? Michael?
I do not.
Again, I have one on Intermountain Engineering. One of the things, it says the application form has been corrected. However, the applicant portion of the checklist has not been completed. Has that been taken care of? Okay, thank you. Other than that, Jeff?
I had a question in the parking. For the building total is 6 spaces, is that correct?
Correct.
And 3 of them are considered the garage and 3 are in front of the garages, is that correct? So there's nothing out on the street at all?
No on-street parking.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
The only question I had was, I thought I saw somewhere on the plans that there was a 29 and something foot elevation shown to grade. Is that true or not? Is there anywhere in the building that's over 28 feet?
Yes. So the way that this PUD was written, you can have roofs over the 28 foot, but they're all averaged together. Right. So I think on this one, I don't remember how many, if there's 5 roofs, but you take all those roofs, average them together to get the overall height. Okay. So you can be over them.
And the window wells don't count towards any of that either. Just want to be clear about that, because sometimes when people are looking at the side elevations, it's difficult to see, like in that middle part of the house or the middle part of the building where there's a cutout for the window well. Right. But I think visually to the naked eye, it's going to look, you're not going to see the window well unless you're right up on top of it. So no, I don't have any problems.
Is everybody else sure they have anything?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
May I have a motion, please? May I have a motion, please?
I don't have it in front of me.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plan review for new single-family residence and accessory dwelling unit at 0019 Belton Way.
May I have
I second that motion.
motion by Michael, second by Amanda? Roll call vote, please.
Michael, aye.
Amanda, I.
Jeff, aye.
Zero aye.
Lynn, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we need to do a continuance motion.
Yes, though I will request that you open public comment, even if we're not technically talking about it tonight, just for kind of transparency's sake.
Okay.
But for the record, I am requesting that this ordinance be moved to February 26th.
Okay, so we have an ordinance this evening to be TBD. Series 2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 13, 16, and 17 of the Minturn Municipal Code to incorporate into the code restrictions of connection to the town's water system based on the limitations of available legal and physical water supply. A request to put it into a continuance. Is there anybody in the audience? Public comment, thank you. Is there anybody there? No. Is there anybody on Zoom?
No one online.
No.
Do we leave it open?
Yes.
We'll leave it open for
Yep.
the next meeting. And it is to a date of February 26, 2025.
All right, so I'll make a motion to continue ordinance TBD series 2025. An ordinance amending chapter 13, 16, 17 of the Minturn Municipal Code to incorporate into the code restrictions on connection to the town's water system based on limitations of available legal and physical water supply to February 26, 2025.
I second that motion.
May I have a roll call?
Michael, I.
Amanda, I.
Lynn, aye.
Jeff,
Darrell, I.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess before we delve into chapter 16, please. Thank you.
So that is, that's where we are right now.
We're resuming the P and Z meeting of February 12th. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Minturn Planning Commission, Matt Farr, Western Silk. Is he here on Zoom?
He is.
Okay. Hi, Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good evening. Sorry about that.
How's it going, Matt?
Good. Sorry. Having a little issue with the unmute button.
No worries. Thanks for hanging in there and waiting for us. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
Okay. Before we get started, I just, as always, want to recognize the work that Matt is doing on our behalf. He's doing a ton of work and keeping us on schedule, getting these things brought back to you, not just this particular issue that, you know, we appreciate you indulging us on this continued conversation on minor PUD amendments, but behind the scenes, we've been trying to work through Article 11 and finishing up Article 8 to bring back to you in final form, and we're making progress. So thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Your
Are
turn,
we
Matt.
ready to dive in?
Your turn.
Yep.
Okay. So the memo that was provided to you all in your packet is a continuance of our discussion, I think, from a month or so ago about potential changes to the minor PUD amendment section of the new code. And in the memo, we offered some different examples of the types of changes that potentially could be permitted as a minor PUD amendment. And I'll walk through those quickly. So the first one, which is currently the only one that's allowed under minor PUD amendments, is changes that are necessary to address technical or engineering considerations discovered during the development of the PUD that could not have been reasonably anticipated during the initial approval process. So in addition to that, we're suggesting that the following be considered or be potentially included as other types of changes under the minor PUD amendment section. And those include any change to the location of a building or buildings or structure or structures of no more than 2 feet in any direction, any increase to the impervious surface area in a planning area within a PUD of no more than 3%, any increase in the total number of residential units of no more than 5%, the total number of residential units may be increased by no more than 10% if the additional units are all deed restricted for resident occupied community housing in accordance with article, and this would refer to the town's article on community housing. Any increase in the total square footage of non-residential buildings of no more than 5%, any change to the number or location of vehicular and or non-motorized access points within the PUD, as long as the changes do not negatively impact public safety and or the flow of traffic onto public streets. and any changes to landscaping that enhance water conservation and/or wildfire mitigation that do not change the overall character of the approved landscape plan. And I'll pause there to see if there's any comment. Before I do that, I did want to note that also included in the memo are a list, are some examples of existing PUDs in Minturn. And if these changes were incorporated under the minor PUD amendment section, we tried to provide some examples of the types of changes to those PUDs that could be allowed as minor PUD amendments.
That was the direction that you gave Matt and I last time, was we need some context here. What does this really look like, or what would it mean? So.
No, it's helpful.
Oh, helpful.
Not helpful.
Phil is awful.
Yes.
Do you have questions? Let me ask questions.
Yeah, we'll start with one end. How about Michael going first?
Yes, I was not here at the last meeting in regards to this. I think Darrell and I were hanging out on I-70, you know, enjoying being miserable. That being said, I read through all this, Matt, and as always, I definitely appreciate everything that you do, you know, because Minturn is definitely not easy. You know, the one thing we are is, you know, we're definitely unique, you know, and my opinion, looking through all this stuff, you know, I was looking at it and looking at like comparison to other towns, and you know, I was like, town Telluride, sort of minimal, you know, stuff like that, but basically Minturn's Minturn, and I care about Minturn. I care about the people that live in Minturn, and I respect that you put things together with showing other towns, but you know, my main concern is this town, and I don't know. Minturn North, you know, for example, seems to be going well. When they need changes, they come in here, and we're here every 2 weeks, and you know, we pretty much all know what potential PUDs might be left in regards to space that we have and also water that we have. So what I don't know, so in regards to all these changes and stuff, I don't know what we're currently doing, but what we're currently doing, I haven't seen since I've been on the board of us having an issue. For the 3 years that I've been on the board, watching meetings for a gazillion years, but that's sort of how I feel at this point.
So my questions are specific to bullet point 1 and bullet point 4. So bullet point 1, when we met last time, we talked about, hey, if the PUD has to move a road, you know, due to something they find underground, I assume like those instances are captured underneath bullet point 1. So those unexpected, like you're doing site work, you run into something. Is that staff agrees with that? That's what's covered underneath bullet point 1 that you guys approved?
I believe so.
Okay, so then bullet point 4, the only thing I'd like to add is, I agree with the bullet. I like the way it's written. The only thing I'd like to add is what my good friend to the right always says is water. So if there is an additional tap that's required for the increase in residential units that they're requesting, I don't think that should be allowed through a minor PUD until we are through with our water crisis.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If there is additional SFEs required or tap, and we do have the water, and they follow the process, work with Jay, pay the fee.
All that's fine.
Okay,
It's if they're coming back to the town saying our original tap allowance doesn't cover this new increase.
they wouldn't
Okay.
get to move forward anyways.
Okay.
The moratorium would.
That was my only thought when I read number 4, is that it's not explicitly covering that, but if you think it's already covered in our current processes.
I think there's been, and Matt certainly chime in, but I think as we went through Article 5, I don't know if we covered it in Article 8, but those types of kind of checks that we will go through, you can pass go if you if we have water, as long as you're complying with the water moratorium. So if someone came to us at a pre-application level for a minor PUD amendment, said, hey, we want to do this, and isn't it great, we're adding 4 new units of deed restricted resident occupied housing, we think we fit in here, and then we go and say, well, we don't have the water, our conversation is over.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure the
So-
conversation's over.
Yeah, but I think, and Matt certainly chime in, I thought we had built that into at least a couple of the sections of Article 5 and 8.
Yeah, so I think on that point, and I apologize, I forgot to mention this. It's not included in the memo, but there are review criteria, and I can try and see if I can find those here quickly. But there's a list of review criteria for a minor PUD amendment. So it's not somebody just can't come in and say, "Hey, planning director, I want to change my PUD," and the planning director just says, "Okay, sounds good." There's criteria that the planning director has to base their either approval or denial of a minor PUD amendment on. And the other piece I forgot to mention when I first introduced the memo, there, based on the direction we were given at the last meeting, we will incorporate a provision that allows a planning director decision on a minor PUD amendment to be called up I think we're recommending by the town council. And then also we are going to incorporate public notice requirements for a minor PUD amendment. So it'll be notice of such and such a date that the planning director will render a decision on a minor PUD amendment request.
Okay. Well, as long as like the checks are in, those are my only 2 comments, was just like making sure the first bullet covered what we had discussed last time, and then that 4th bullet point had some sort of, that if it did require more water, that it was gonna go through a different process. Thanks.
Daryl, oh no, Jeff, you're next. We're going this way.
Okay. Well, I think just to go a little further on what Amanda was talking about, I mean, it is, just to be transparent, if there, I don't know what exact bullet point it is on here, but the increase in units, if there's an increase in units, it inherently is going to need more water. So there's no way you can add a unit and not need another tap. That for sure is a given. But obviously, because of the water moratorium, you're not going to do what Scott said. You're not going to pass go if there's no more. If we're still under a water moratorium. Now, I'm hopeful that by the time we actually get this done,
We're gonna be out of
we're
the
gonna be out
water
of the water
moratorium.
So
Like 6 years from now.
You are very
It is,
hopeful.
but-
Jeff, do you want to tell council that we're going to finish this in 4 years?
well,
I might get fired.
I just want to say that I hope we find some more water
Yes.
sooner than later, as you all know. But yeah, I think the checks and balances are there. The water moratorium sort of rules all in the town and has been for a long time, so that won't really apply or be an issue. You won't be able to get past go if you need to add more units and you don't have the water. So, but I don't have any problems really with it how it's written. I think that the percentages are what we seemed as a board to potentially have questions about, or personally, I'm not adverse to the way it's written. I liked there was Matt, how you had an example in there of how a 1%, if it was not 5%, it was 1%, you would need 100 units in your PUD to add a unit, which we don't have anything. We don't have any land available in town that's that big. So having 5%, how the examples that were shown, it really wasn't a drastic difference. And if there's water, I'm fine with how it's written. So that's it.
Daryl?
Matt, I liked how you included the other communities within the area, just to give us an idea of what they're looking at as well, so that we're not really blazing a new trail here. So I appreciated that. Plus also the examples of what we have in town, should there be a change or something like that. First blush, it was kind of confusing, but after I zeroed in on it a little bit more, it got a lot clearer. So thank you for those examples.
You're welcome.
I have one more thing. Have you guys contemplated, this sound dumb, have you contemplated what if someone comes in with their PUD and they want to reduce the number of units?
Awesome.
Good question. Just
Awesome.
Yeah, usually a downward, usually a downward departure in units or commercial square footage or whatever is
favorable, generally?
Yeah, if you were deemed compliant with whatever you were approved with, but then you're, again, making a downward departure, you're not going to have an adverse impact on traffic or water or other infrastructure, those types of things. But I think, are you asking how does that fit into this minor PUD amendment? Like, should we actually include something like an asterisk that says any reduction?
I just wonder if we have percentages, especially when it comes to deed restrictions, like if you're adding a unit or two, if you have a 5% jump or a 10% jump if you're deed restricted, and something changes and you go down and you downsize, I don't know if there's a reason to have any language in there that covers that, or if it's just a sort of dealt with on a conditional basis.
I think the latter. Matt, certainly jump in, but I think if we have a PUD and it has a PUD development agreement, right? That development agreement, among other things, is going to key in on the housing plan specifically, and what the developer's agreeing to, how many units, at what price point, whatever it is. Any change to that would almost be an ancillary consideration or process to a minor PUD amendment. We'd update the PUD agreement. And so maybe we do need to think about that, but I mean, I guess sorry, Matt, if someone agreed to a certain number of housing units, that's not something that can be adjusted downward without council approval, is my read on that.
Well, and maybe it just throws it into a major amendment.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. Anything that's not listed, the code language, the code language that we have says that these are the only things that are considered minor PUD amendment. Any other change to an approved PUD is a major amendment. So I would agree that if you're talking about deed restricted units and somebody wants to reduce the number that they're providing, I think that becomes a pretty significant conversation. I think if they're market rate units, I mean, the PUDs I've seen, and I'm far from an expert in PUDs, but the ones I've seen, typically a PUD guide will say you can have so many units within the PUD and so many square feet of commercial or industrial space. And so my interpretation of that is, well, that's your upper limit. You can always do less than that. There's no, I don't think I've ever seen a PUD where it says you're obligated, unless it's deed restricted units, you're not obligated to do so many market rate units if you don't want to.
Right, I think that's the determining factor, and that's a really important distinction, is if it was a market rate square footage of a building, or if it was a market rate number of units versus obviously any attempt at a reduction in deed restricted units would be a major issue.
Right. So I think if you were to reduce the number of market rate, I don't know that you would actually need a PUD amendment because I guess my interpretation is if in your PUD guide, if it says you can do upwards of, for example, 100 units, and you decide 100 market rate units, and you decide I want to do 50 instead, you kind of have from 0 units to 100 units. That's range to work within. Would be my interpretation. I mean it. I guess it always kind of depends on the whoever the planning director is, but yeah, I mean the code language does say that anything that isn't listed as a minor, specifically listed as a minor PUD amendment, which is that list in the memo, that's considered a major PUD amendment. So you know, it kind of, if a planning director wanted you to go through the major amendment process for a reduction, I think there is that possibility.
The other thing I would add is, Matt, you're right. Most PUDs have a range. We have the experience here recently of PUDs that are kind of small enough and they're very specific. 39 units, 42 units, right? We know exactly, or 43 units, whatever. They weren't crafted as a range, which is different.
But Mentor North was to start. I mean, it was like a range of 100 and something to 100.
Started at 118 lots, wound up
And
at
then now it's at
Yeah.
39.
Yeah, but it went from a range to something very specific and nailed down to a site-specific development plan.
Right.
So.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, no.
You're so sweet.
We already passed you.
You know, this is a topic that for sure, you know, I don't know a lot about, okay? And I don't even know what we currently have or this and that. And like I said, is I know what we have land-wise. And that the question is, because when I started reading through these things, like for example, any change to location of buildings or structures no more than 2 feet in any direction. And I started writing in, as long as it does not move into a, you know, setback. And then I was like, and I looked at it this morning and I was like, well, as long as it complies with currently code or what we agreed upon, I was like, I could write that in a million things.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I don't know, for example, like to change the direction of 2 feet, I don't care if you change the direction, but if it's reducing a setback, I would, you know, think that it would be great to come back to the planning commission. But I don't know Matt, I don't understand 100% what the intent is on stuff like that specifically.
That's a great point. And that's certainly something that we could build into this, you know, some caveats. So long as, Matt, I don't know what you think about that, but I kind of had the same thought on that particular one, just for our own purposes as staff to have some guardrails, right? And so when someone comes to us and says, I think I fit in the minor PUD amendment and I want to do this because we have drainage issues, or we're working with Eagle River Water and Sand and they need this much room, and we've already thought of our setbacks and we're not violating our setbacks that were agreed to at the PUD, right? But if it's in writing in the code that these are the things that need to be considered.
Well, I think it's a great response, and I appreciate it because, you know, what we've been saying all along is, you know, in our code and rewriting the code, we want clarity and we want to eliminate gray areas.
Yes.
And so, yes, thank you for.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I think that's, Matt, do you have anything to add?
You know, I think that provision, it probably does need clarity because it's not, as you noted, it's not overly clear. You know, does it allow somebody to move a building into setbacks or move setbacks around? I don't know that was the intent. I mean, the other, and I think, Scott, we actually talked about this on one of our calls. You know, that would apply if you have a PUD where you come in and you show specific locations for buildings. And sometimes that occurs and sometimes that doesn't. So I don't know that one would apply, but it definitely, I mean, I think it needs some clarity to say, that you can't, you still have to kind of work within the setbacks that were approved as part of the PUD. You can't, that doesn't allow you to start moving setbacks around. So we can certainly clarify that if that's the direction that the planning commission wants to go.
Couldn't you just say something like, as long as it doesn't trigger the need for a variance?
Well, if it's a PUD,
There is no
They
trigger.
could have their own,
It is if
they
it
could
goes
have
to
their
a
own
subdivision.
lot lines, which would then trigger a PUD variant.
I think like there's a bullet point down below that talks about the number of vehicular access points as long as the change does not adversely impact. We could say something similar, kind of an affirmative statement, as long as the change in location does not violate previously approved or established setbacks per
And
the
it doesn't
PUD.
reduce the previously approved setbacks as previously approved.
Previously approved before that.
I mean, I'm sincerely, it's cold outside.
I'm always the last one, but it means I always get to say the things that are the hard questions. I question whether, and I guess it depends where 10% is. If it's a 50 unit PUD, that's 5 units, right? But if it's 100 unit, you're putting in 10 units. I don't know that, like Jeff's saying, I don't know that I would say that is a minor PUD. I would question if that doesn't take it to a major. 10 units could be an acre of land.
But if they were deed restricted, isn't that a good thing?
I still think it should come back before us.
So do you
Because
wanna
it's
do like
affecting
a,
people in the area.
do you wanna do like a rolling, so it's like, if it's, you know, percentage of acre, like, you could build in an algorithm and do it.
Well,
Sliding scale.
explain,
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
something like
that's what
that.
I'm saying, yeah.
Because I still worry about neighbors, and I realize that a PUD has its own, and I realize it could be a small project or a big project. And I'm also gonna say that probably the majority of them will be at the south end of town. I don't know where else we're gonna have at this end of town. But it also affects open space. I mean, you're gonna lose a lot of open space on something like that. And if we're trying to say we don't want to lose open space, we don't want to lose parking, which in that case, they probably have to add parking. So yeah, that, 5 doesn't bother me, but 10 kind of does. That's a lot. And I think if we could do something like that, that would be great.
I would like to clarify that the 10 units don't necessarily have to be single family taking up 5,000 or
Right, and I thought of that too, like an apartment building.
buildings.
And I think that's why if it came before us, if, that way we at least get to question it and people could question it that might live in the neighborhood. I still worry about this being allowed for people around there. Not so much yours.
Well,
But I'm thinking of who lives around yours is what I was thinking, the people to the north of the neighborhood.
yeah, but what Madison's saying, like, take an apartment building that's
Right.
designed for 16 units and they're all 1,500 square feet. What if you decided, hey, the market is 800 square feet, and we're gonna have the same size building and add 4 more units because they're all gonna be smaller, but the building doesn't change.
So the original
The
building.
building stays the same size,
I guess my comment on here was, I'd like to,
right? And they're all deed restricted.
I'd like
Because
to have
the
things
market doesn't
remain in
decide.
conformity with the dimensional regular standards of the town. So that works. So there again, that's an issue, because if that building doesn't really take away that much open space, then that's fine.
Well,
Scott's got an idea.
Well, just what you just said, remain in compliance with the dimensional limitations of the town. Should it be the dimensional limitations as approved of the PUD, building height,
Right,
Yes,
you know,
right,
Open
yes.
space.
open space?
Setbacks.
I mean, I think the most important thing any of us would agree with is the most important thing is to not shrink a lot of open space.
Keep in mind that PUD would have to have a lot of extra open space to do it, if you're talking about putting more
Yes.
buildings on more space.
Right, that's why I said remain.
So they would have to have excess,
Ex-
and a bunch of extra open
You know,
space.
the example I always think is this last one we did for Minturn North, that house expanded, but it was still within their building package according to the code.
Right.
Something like that doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
But if the house all of a sudden went 5 feet this way, this way, this way,
Right.
then that's when you're like, oh.
But I think that is the.
And then I worry about the
That's
neighborhood
impact.
person, yeah.
I agree.
And I again have the question on, I have a hard time saying this should go directly to council, but I don't like saying council should call it up. I think it should go to council. Because I still think we need that entity of being open to the public that these changes are being made. And if it's just the council approving it with you, it will not be out there to the public. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So therefore, I don't think having council call it up, and council could do a consent agenda, but that's the other problem. If they do a consent agenda, it won't be out there for the public to know about it.
It's in the packet and it's on the agenda.
But we want them to discuss these bullet points in full and make sure that it's is that what you're trying to say?
But it also has to be public notice, 250 feet radius of what's happening,
The change does?
certified mail.
Well, that's okay.
Of the minor PUD.
I forgot we changed that back to 250.
Yeah,
It's
so,
200, it's not 250
so-
anymore. It's 200.
You have to post a sign.
200 now, I think.
I thought we did 250 with Tom Priest.
200, right?
So it's currently 250,
200.
and so the compromise between 100 and 250 somehow was 200.
Amazing. 200 is going to.
You know, there's one example I have in here, but I don't know that PUD would go through prior to us finishing chapter 16. And that's the one in the Lloyd Park.
that's not a PUD.
It's not a PUD.
No, it's not a PUD.
No.
It's a plaque.
Okay.
So one, I don't want to jump ahead, but my mind just kind of went here, like, this is really good direction and feedback. And I think, Matt, I won't speak for you, but I feel like we have enough to work with here to keep crafting this. You will get to see it again as we add this into Article 5. It's one of the only components that's not finished with Article 5. You'll see it, council will see it. If we need to, we can talk about it again and kind of go through this exercise of, here's how we made the sausage. A lot of thought went into it, but you may have additional comments. So
I love the examples we give. The sausage.
that's a professional technical term.
I'm gonna ask, I realize this is minor PUD amendments, nothing else, just PUD. Let's clarify that, so we all have our thoughts in the right way.
Which is not a whole lot of things in town.
No, but it also, it's hard to imagine now. We always have to think 20, 30 years in the future, right?
Somebody buys our whole street.
Southtown.
Minor
Can I
PUD.
make a small comment?
Somebody sold the street.
Buys our whole street.
No,
On the
there was
river.
an article in the paper, did you
And
see
so
that?
setbacks.
It's gonna cost some.
It was about, no, it was, I think a lawyer. I sent a copy to Jay, or I brought one over for him, and they were talking about something what you said, but not exactly, about if you sell a deed restriction and the deed restriction part of it gets lost in between, what happens, and how you have to keep regulatory records about this, and who has to keep them and everything. It was in the paper the other day. It was a good article.
Keeping track of it.
Keeping track of it is a very important thing. And I sent it over to Jay to take a look at, but it was in, what's today, Wednesday? It must have been like Friday's paper, because I dropped it off Monday, Thursday or Friday, if anybody wants to look it up. Or I can see if he has it, get copies. Okay, so is everybody okay with that? Do we have a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
A thumbs up. I
Thumbs up.
think we've done a lot of really great work here.
Okay.
We always do great work here.
Thanks. You should never let Mike and I sit next to each other again. Ever. It's twice in a row.
Staff is working to incorporate the following changes to the minor PUD section based on direction from Planning Commission. Require public notice. I suggest we take it to 14 days. Scott said that there was some changes made throughout the regulatory systems, that's what it is nowadays. Is that correct?
15.
It's 10 right now, is it not?
It's 10 in our code.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if it's something that, my understanding is if it affects vested rights, you're running afoul of state statute if you're less than 14 days.
Well,
But-
here's my example. I sent my electric check in on January 10th, and it was due the 24th. The next day, they were calling to tell me that I was overdue. they did not get it till the 28th. That was 18 days. So that's what's happening with our mail. So I think we'd be safe going 14.
Well, as luck would have it, when you send a notification, it is based on the date you send it, which is also why we require certified mail. We cannot guarantee when someone receives it
Yes.
or picks it up, but we can document when it's sent, and that's
So they have to sign for it.
No.
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 It's just
Red mail, I thought they did, to pick it up.
No, if it's return receipt, which is not
Which is
required
not
by
what
state
required.
statute.
Oh,
That's something I think we need to.
I never get it, I just send them.
We need to give good thought to.
To her point, I mean, I just sent a bunch of certified mail and I asked for email receipts of when they got it, but that wasn't really like return or like the actual. Some of them were like a month later.
A lot of, I mean, I can attest, me and my family do not check the mailbox all that often. So there's things that sit in there
They
for
were
weeks.
after the meeting happened.
which is why we double and triple up on posting signs and newspaper and stuff on the website and agendas and
And good old Minturn word of mouth.
That's right.
So that was my thought on that. Does anybody else have any?
I do not.
I do not.
Daryl? Including language that allows for call-up at administrative session on minor PUD, staff is recommending that the town council be the body. And I think we've discussed that enough, but I still think that the best thing is that we make sure everything gets out there so the public knows. And if it's sending out a notice 200 feet, I think that's really good. Because in those areas, there are not going to be a lot of people around probably. That's my biggest issue.
Okay. Well, you always are interested in transparency and public notice. Michelle beat that into our heads as well over her 7 or 8 years of follow the code, be transparent, and communicate with the community. So I think we've got it.
Be nice.
So do we have a thumbs up or thumbs down on these two? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Okay. Anything else, Matt?
No, I think unless there's any other questions or comments, that's all we had for you this evening in terms of the code update.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Matt.
Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
See ya.
Next, discussion, direction, and bid. Staff reports, manager's report is in our packet.
Read it.
And we now have Katie here. And we asked that we get copies of the manager's report in our packets also. It just helps us keep up on things. So
Yeah, I just sent the manager's report the 19th, so.
it'll be in our next packet. Thank you so much. And planning director report?
Wait, can I have a
Oh.
question on the manager's report?
I might not have an answer, but you can certainly ask it.
Eagle River Quiet Title.
Yes.
So I understand what the words are on the paper. When did the notice?
You didn't get it?
No,
Other people told me they didn't get it either.
I didn't get it.
I got
We've
mine
gotten so many calls from so many people who have had it, so I know it's been sent out.
certified.
Here we go.
But where?
I don't know, man. Mine came.
Your came? Did it come to your doorstep or did it come to your
No,
post?
it's in my post office box.
Then send Nicole to the post office box.
Certified?
I don't
I love
send
getting
Nicole anywhere.
certified letters.
I don't trust the child. No, I do trust him, but I don't send him to my post office box.
Okay.
Not across the street. Okay. I was just wondering what that was and if it had been sent really to everybody.
Yeah, because other neighbors, like Lisa, a few houses up, she didn't get hers, she said.
Do you know one?
I mean, I have to have one.
She has to have one, please.
Oh, that's up to the attorneys on how it was sent, so
So is it by parcel? If you receive one?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's got a little map of your property and everything.
Well, this is why, yeah, there's a lot of questions I have around this one. I'll reach out to you directly.
Call Jake.
You want your
I know,
letter.
I know very little about this. Don't call me, call Jake.
Don't.
I mean, I think this is
That's
amazing. I
awesome.
totally support it. I'm happy with this direction, but I just wanna know.
Attorneys, for the most part, I believe, have been handling this, so I have not been involved.
Want to fix some
And
water
is it gonna be
projects
similar to
with
the, Restore the Gore?
No.
We're just,
That was a hard move, Jeff.
we are just quiet titling up to the river's edge so that people cannot quiet title out into the river and then potentially have a situation where, you know, if somebody's floating by, you have the person being like, you can't be floating across this stretch of river because this is my private property. And also
That
to
doesn't
kind of
happen
help.
already.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I'm saying, it happens. And
But it's
it's
too late
ridiculous.
for those properties.
Right,
And
yeah,
we're
we're
trying to
trying to
stop it.
protect the rest of it.
Perfect. How about we, like, let everybody come through my section of the river?
Good.
Come on in.
So the impetus is to protect the river bottom.
I think it's amazing.
Yes.
I agree.
It's the
I
Montana.
totally like.
It's the way it is.
Sorry,
in
but I didn't, I haven't
Montana.
received anything. And I got a river bottom. Yes.
This is the way it is, Montana. They own the riverbed, right?
In Montana, everyone in the state owns the river bottom.
Yeah.
No one, you're not allowed to own the river bottom in Montana. No one is. So
No.
as long as you can
Yeah.
keep your feet wet.
Yeah.
You can just keep on walking through anyone's property.
And I think that's, I mean, that's the way it should be.
No, it's not the way it is here.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, there's a case, I'm getting off topic, but there's a case in Salida or Bunavit, I think it was Salida, just like our town, where like your neighbor owns to the middle of the river. You tell people, come on into my house and you can get in the river and fish. And the minute that they walk down the middle of the river into their property where they quiet titled, there was a guy with a gun and he said, get out of the river. That's my property.
Well, that's why I brought up earlier, the restoration, when we did the restoration project, it was, who knows whether it was an ordinance that was passed or whatever, but at that point, there was supposedly not be any more quiet titles because of the river restoration
Should have been
project.
done that way, yeah.
And like, as we all know, there's some that are pretty consistent, and then there's some that are in the middle of the river.
Well, yeah.
And it comes down to your surveyor, I guess.
That was all, was that grant, that was probably grant money that paid for that.
Yeah,
and
it was all-
The river, and
yeah.
it was probably an I or a T that didn't get dotted or crossed, and here we are.
I bet I got mine surveyed by Intermountain.
Unfortunately, it's hard to keep up with because you have to be checking the legal notices and the court docs constantly. And if you miss one, it's not like the town is automatically notified when a quiet title is applied for or processed in the town. It's only if we keep our eyes out in the legal notices. And so that's how some of those things, I believe, have kind of been missed throughout the years just because
Well, and
we
that,
didn't see that issue of the paper.
yeah, like you were saying earlier, like quick claim deeds and quiet
Well, no,
titles.
quick claim versus quiet title, like, it's.
No, I
good to
know.
I mean, if Justin spent 2 years cleaning it up.
I know, but like, I forget the guy's name, but years ago I went and met with the guy that did the GIS at Eagle County. Jeff? Yeah, Scott. And he was saying how people would come in or submit things to him
With a quick claim, he
with a
denies
quick claim,
it.
and he denied it because he said it has to be signed by a judge. And if it wasn't, but as soon as it was signed by a judge, then he puts it into the GIS.
That's why we go back to the final plats
Yeah,
on the river.
on the river.
It could stand by the Mayor Minturn and the land title, and everybody and their brother. And it's either legit or it's not legit.
But the thing is like land title, it was titling quick claims.
Right.
They were titling quick claims, but then the county wasn't acknowledging
signed
the
by
quick
a
claim,
judge.
yeah, so they were only doing quiet titles, it, like.
And why does, like, if you change your plat, it has to go through the town? It has to be signed by the mayor.
And then it has.
But it doesn't have to be signed if you
By
quiet
the
title in the
county.
middle of the river.
Well, a lot of people, up until the last few years, the town has not historically processed, I feel like, a lot of amended final plats to combine the two lots. So people have acquired this extra piece of property, but unless they want to actually have the whole property count towards, what they're trying to do, if they have a new project, build a new house and they need the extra impervious coverage or whatever, that's not something that they've brought to us to kind of say, hey, I want to remove this lot line and have a bigger lot. And so, it's only been within the last probably 3 years that I've seen an uptick in amended final plats as we start making people more aware that, hey, you need to do this, regardless really of if you're processing a new project, just so that.
But that brings up an interesting point, that if somebody got another 2,000 square feet added to their property and they amended their plat, and then they said that I want to redevelop my lot, and now I get more lot coverage and more impervious, but all those extra 2,000 square feet are under the water.
It still wouldn't count, and Mike and I talked about that today, because I mentioned that you had some correspondence from Alan Christensen, and citing a section of the code, and he said, well, let's think about what that might be, and he pulled up a section of code that does still prohibit someone from using that portion of their property that is in the river counting toward lot coverage or impervious coverage. So it's still on the books.
Yeah, that did get added. That originally wasn't in the books,
That's awesome.
but that actually got put in the books and is there.
Good.
16250A, portions of a lot contained in a river or creek as defined by the ordinary high water mark shall not be included in the lot square footage for purposes of calculating the maximum building lot coverage or the maximum impervious surface area.
So it's high water mark.
Ordinary high water
And
mark.
Alan Christensen's the one that did that?
Oh, that I don't know.
No,
but
he
this
didn't
has
do
been
that.
amended
That was
several times
added.
over
That
the
was
years.
added after, but it was added.
Some real
After
smart
would be
person.
Mr. was it Attorney Lemire?
It's-
It could have been Attorney Matt Meir.
Could have been Attorney Matt Meir.
Could have been.
But as far as the riverbed quiet title, like all that stuff, it would be awesome if we could just get a grant, because it's not gonna be cheap.
No, it's amazing. I love this project. I just want
It's like to actually go in and survey it and go through you're gonna hit people with quitclaim deeds well, you probably already know this. No, quiet title and quitclaim deeds, and the difference between quitclaims, of course. But if you didn't pay taxes on it for 8 years, it's not valid.
Well, we're just quiet titling up to the ordinary high water mark. If they want a quiet title down to the ordinary high water mark, that's fine. They can do that.
As long as they don't go to the middle of the river, I'm good.
Right.
As long as they don't go in the middle of the river.
Yeah. In fact, the couple people who have tried to quiet title past the ordinary high water mark, since we've received this direction from council to kind of be more aggressive about it within the last 6 months, the town has fought and we have settled with them only quiet titling up to the ordinary high water mark.
So you know more than you let on.
Oh, thank you.
Can we get the addresses of those people? That's what I keep in mind, just in case I, want to go piss in their river.
It's behind the bank.
Stop!
Which is
Stop! I'm sorry, we did not mean to derail.
Now we're gonna see a man
This is
pissing
planning
in the
commission
river.
comments, you got a little time to release.
Okay.
Mine is Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you for the nice card.
Thank you
Thank you very
the
much.
York, I'm gonna stick it on my.
What about the planner report?
Oh, God.
Planners report.
Oh.
You didn't get lost before that. We skipped, okay, give us the planners.
Go.
I said
That was awful.
Aren't you glad you came, Katie?
Oh,
The Highlands open house went well and the survey was great. That's all I got.
All right.
We know the
Yay.
answers. Let people know the answers. How about that?
Well,
Packet.
I think you already touched on it with the overwhelming, what we expected, we got. So if we asked the question, what do you think we should do with this, back in April or May last year with the community survey, the overwhelming response was open space. We knew that was probably going to be, I suspected it was going to be the answer this time. Overwhelmingly, the response was open space of some form. We'll start. Madison has developed some really great bar graphs and pie charts that break down the splits between resident, non-resident, and what their preferences were. If you like open space, what kind of open space? We've got all that. I'm gonna break it down in a memo that will go to council for next week's memo or their meeting. And from there, we'll decide what our next steps are. If the overwhelming preference by the public is some kind of open space, but we still need to generate money, what are our options that we need to start pursuing to do that?
Well, I have a good question, really good question. So whose three people's terms expire? Are you staying?
Fine. And that was my next comment. Thank you for both of you being interested in reapplying. Amanda hasn't said anything, but I'm asked about that.
That's an interesting way. I like your style.
That's an
Who am I
interest.
gonna sit next?
All
to?
right.
I said for an interest.
I will be reapplying.
Yes, it's Amanda, Lynn, and Daryl. Those are the three of them.
And I'm sorry, I'm slow to the table on this one, but do I just reach out to you?
You'll need to fill out the application and either drop that off with me or email it to me or however, just, it needs to get to me in some form.
Okay, cool, thanks.
And that's due by March 13th.
And I'm assuming we're having a lot of people applying for the position.
That is always the goal, to have as many applicants as possible for council to interview and on the 19th.
We're trying to get like 20 plus.
Yeah.
When you get 20 plus, I will bake you a whole cake.
Okay.
Pretty good.
She said if we get 20 applicants, she will bake us a cake.
How about you just bake us a cake?
Sorry, Scott, we're
good.
No,
I
that's,
know you've lost total
Valis is
control
like,
of.
I'm not a control freak. But Lynn and I had a discussion this week. And part of that discussion was just making sure that you have what you need, which is why she asked for the Belden Place PUD to be given out, because, you know, the concern was most of you weren't here when that got approved and weren't part of the PUD process. So we keep bringing these things to you. Everything's all good. Maybe you don't quite know where we're getting our figures and facts from. So that's on us to try to make sure you have what you need and we're educating you. But it also is on you. If you do have questions, just please call us. Or if you want to sit down and say, you know what, we've been talking a lot about Belden. I really don't know
whatever you do.
right? That's
not
why we're
email.
here. So please.
Not email.
Don't want email.
And yes,
Evidence.
yes. Good point, Michael. Emails are discoverable.
Look,
They're not gonna be sitting next to each other.
Look right there. I wonder whose number this is. It stays in my P and Z book. Right there. You told me that if I had a question to ask you, Michelle the party,
I did.
I should have got the number.
Yeah, Michelle's.
I apologize about
Who
not
you gonna
getting
call,
the number.
Ghostbuster?
Katie, don't give Mike.
No.
He will call you at 6 a.m.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
future meetings, the 26th, there are two people going to be gone according to our last meeting.
I will be gone. I'll be gone as well.
You'll be gone, and there are, I've got lost.
I'm
Personally,
definitely.
I will be here.
But
You'll
you
be
said
on the
you could,
boat?
What?
Is that when you're going on the boat?
No, I already went on the boat. Thank you for that.
Oh, good.
you said you could zoom in, correct?
I would rather not zoom in, but I can figure out how to zoom in.
I should have a quorum.
What boat were you on?
Maybe
Eric again?
Eric.
Eric will be attending via
Yeah, you
Zoom.
didn't get any norovirus?
Eric,
Yeah,
you what?
Attending via Zoom.
Okay,
I will have a quorum, Amanda, unless everybody somehow drops out suddenly. You should not need to.
it's Eric who said he could zoom.
Okay, that'd be great.
I knew one of you did, it was in my other.
Just text me. I will be out of country, so if I need to zoom in, I can. Okay. But it'll be difficult.
Pretty sure it stays
And I probably will have a margarita.
I wish I could say the same.
Let's go on to the next one, March 12th.
Be here.
You will be here. March 13th, those of you who are applying for P and Z need to be here, and that meeting will be with front of, or need to turn it in, and then is it March 18th?
March 19th.
March 19th will be the meeting for that.
And I have to come speak again at our council.
Yep, pending.
If it's just you three, again, council might just say, hey, we know you've been on there, we don't have to interview you. If there's additional people, then an interview process will take place.
And Eric's our
Alternate.
that's his time is still.
He's already,
right?
he's like,
He still has a year left on his term.
yeah,
That's what I meant.
so it's just us to be there now.
No.
Yeah, okay. What's
I'll make a
next?
motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Motion by Jim, second by Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Will you give
Jay,
me-
why are you still here? Go home and